this session is going to be on student choice boards, how to create them, some things you might want to include in them. And so let's just go ahead and get started. So in our current reality, I'm going to create this choice board for a digital audience. So for my students who are maybe either virtual or hybrid, with the intent of this is something that they could do on their own time. So we're going to keep that in mind as I build this for you today. And also my topic is going to be nonfiction reading, probably for the grade level of maybe a third, fourth, and fifth. Kind of thinking of like my background as when I was in the classroom and gearing my board towards that. So I enjoy building my student choice boards within Google Slides because I just feel like you have a lot more layering ability. And you also can add different activities within your slide deck that could potentially be choices on your choice board. So your premise of your choice board is you're giving your students essentially choice in their learning, but you're kind of giving them guided choice. So let's go ahead and get started. I prefer to change my page setup so that it's 8.5 by 11. I just feel like it gives me a bit more space to work with. All right, and then I like to build from scratch. So for right now, I'm going to click on layout and I'm going to just do it blank for that first page. And we're going to start with a Tic Tac Toe style choice board. I feel like it's the easiest to kind of expose your students to for the first time. So you're going to go ahead and go to Insert Table, and then I'm going to insert a 3x3 table. All right, and okay, so here's my choice board. I know it doesn't look like much yet. It'll get there. All right. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and insert, I like to use word art for my headers. So this is going to be our nonfiction reading choice board. And you can go ahead and drag that up. If you've never used word art, it's kind of nice to do a really quick bolded title. Let's see, I want to make that pop a little bit. So I'm going to add a little box behind it. All right. And I want to make my border around my board actually thicker because it makes it stand out a bit more for my students. All right, so here's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start with a 3x3, and the premise is they're going to have to get Tic Tac Toe at some point throughout the week. And I would give my students that information in Google Classroom. So they're having 9 choices, but by the end of the week, they are expected to do at least 3 of them and get Tic Tac Toe. So some of the things I might include, and now this is where I'm going to do like a brief outline, is I want this one to be record a Flipgrid video finding non-fiction elements in a scavenger hunt. All right, so this is super basic. I'm actually going to zoom in a bit so you can kind of see it a bit more here. All right, so there's my first one. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, and I prefer to use that font. All right, and maybe I want to align it so that's either in the middle or towards the bottom. Okay, and then I'm actually going to look for a Flipgrid icon, images. Here's the dot that I want. Bring that back in here. resize it a bit. And what I would do if I were in the classroom is keep your same choice board, like the actions, somewhat similar. So like the kids are going to know how to use Flipgrid, but you may give them a different Flipgrid experience each week. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the text. And here I have my Flipgrid board ready for my students. So I'm actually going to share that, copy this link, go back to my choice board, hit the link icon, paste it. And now when the students click on this, or I'm actually also going to link the icon, either the icon or the text will take them to the Flipgrid activity. All right. Next activity I'm going to do is, let's see, read the book Cat versus. So since we're doing nonfiction, maybe I want to find some books on Epic for them to read. And like for this particular one, I'm just going to have them read it to themselves. All right, change my font here. And here's the book on Epic. Because I like to have the title or the actual page, I'm actually going to copy the image, bring it in right here so that it's part of the table. And then I'm also going to copy the URL, bring it back here. I'm going to link the picture. I'm also going to link the text just so they have it in both places so I don't have kids who are confused. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to put in some more activities for my students. Since you're doing nonfiction reading, you could also include some sort of writing activity with your students. So maybe I want them to, after reading a nonfiction book, to following questions. All right. And once again, going with the format. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put these questions within the slide deck so that they can answer it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new slide. And let's go ahead and bring this title over so that it looks the same. Nonfiction reading response questions. And I usually do a table with my students. So I'll have like the question in one and then the type box is a different color for them. So what was the title of your nonfiction book? What 3 new facts you learned? All right, so then I have those 3. Delete this. Excuse me. Delete that row. And I usually always had the boxes for them to type in as yellow so that it was kind of grab their attention. So they knew to type in the yellow boxes. And like I said, like doing a choice board with your students, you kind of want to roll it out with them slowly. Do that gradual release, especially just the first time. If you're giving them like choice for the first time ever, like make sure they understand what their choices are So maybe I would only want to have 3 objects or 3 choices on my first board. And then the second week, add a few more and build up to those 9 activities. But then you can reuse the type of activity each week. So maybe every week there is a Flipgrid option, or there is a typed response option with different questions. All right, so now for this one here, after reading your nonfiction, I want this text to actually link to my slide number 2. All right, and I'm actually going to go ahead and input a question mark because I want them to search the web. Or I'm sorry, I want them to answer a question. And so they'll know then when they click on this activity, or when they click on that text, it will take them right to the reading response question. And they are then able to answer this question. So it'll take them right to slide 2. And here's the text for them. They can click on it and type in what they need to, what they need for this response. I'm going to go ahead and finish this board off camera, and I will come back and show you what my additional choices are. And then we will kind of go over as a student how I would expect them to turn this activity in. All right, we'll be back in a moment. All right, so here's my nonfiction reading choice board filled out. So I went in and I included 9 different things. I did a lot of Flipgrids because I find most value in that tool right now with students, especially even if we're not virtual learning. I just feel like that tool is so powerful to capture their voice. And I really get authentic data from them recording their thinking that way. And so I just had 3 activities that they could do with Flipgrid, but they're entirely different. So my board includes a few opportunities for them to do some reading. So they can, read The Cat versus Dog. They can read an article on Wonderopolis, and then they can also make a list of their wonders that they still have. And the list is linked right within the slide deck. They can also go to BrainPop and watch a nonfiction video, and then in BrainPop, make a mind map. So like I said earlier, this is where you would scaffold this and perhaps do mind mapping first as a whole group, and then it becomes an item that you add onto the choice board. And then I have the 3 different Flipgrids, so recording a Flipgrid, doing an actual scavenger hunt, and then 2 other Flipgrids that are actually connected to their personal rating. So I wanted them to do a book talk of 3 favorite nonfiction books. Could be virtual books. They could use books they found on Epic and why others should read them. And then I can use that in my classroom to showcase some other nonfiction titles that kids are really liking. And then also, what are some 4 facts in the nonfiction books that they've read that personally surprised them and why? And then my final option for them on the choice board is a slideshow. So I learned with my students, like I said, this is you're going to scaffold it ahead of time, show them how to make a slideshow just once, maybe even do it for like morning meeting, like make a slideshow about yourself and show them the tools on how to make it. And then your students are going to be able to use that tool to show off what they're learning. So this would be the final board, and I'm going to just zoom out so you can see what I have going on here. Now, when I'm ready to use it with my students, I'm actually going to add some shapes here. So I'm going to add 3 X's, and I'm going to have them off to the side, but I want to make sure they fit. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and fill it. I want it to be red. I want that to be red, maybe make it a bit bolder. All right, and 1, 2, 3. I'm going to just have them here along the side. And my students then, when I roll this out with them, I would load this into Google Classroom, make a copy for each student, and just show them that by the end of the week, I would want them to have these 3 X's placed on top of the activities they have completed. Now, the reading of the books, so the cat versus dog and the reading of the nonfiction, those are two that I'm trusting them to do because there's nothing that they're going to turn in for me. The other ones, though, as a teacher, I can go in and check. Did they answer the questions? Did they complete the flip grid? Do I have a slideshow? Did they answer what they're continuing to wonder after reading that article? So I can go in and see, like, yes, I see you moved the X to one you completed, but you also did turn in the work. Doing choice boards with your students is super, super powerful. Giving them that choice, having that buy-in, having that engagement, their goal setting, and they're really connecting to what they're thinking about. So powerful. When you're building your choice boards, try to build it with things that your students are going to want to complete. So, for example, if I have students who are really good at creating videos, I may add Adobe Spark on here, or I may add WeVideo as an option. If I have students who maybe making graphic novels and drawing is really something they love, I'm going to look for some sort of way that I can add a component to this choice board that's going to be something that they like. So maybe I would have, one of the tasks be make a picture of a graphic novel based on something, a nonfiction book you've read. Take a picture of it, upload it for us to see. So I'm going to build these activities based on what I think my students are going to love. So based on that, like many of my students loved working within BrainPop. They love Flipgrid. It keeps them engaged, and it really is powerful. And also, I'm able to assess them and see where they're really at. So this is how I would start making a choice board. I feel like the 3x3 or the 9 total choices are really a good place to start. You can always do more. You could do less. You could start with 3 choices at a time, and have them only maybe have to do 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3. Whatever you really think your students are going to benefit from. In the Canvas course, I'm going to link a bunch of resources for you as well to get started in building and using these. But I would definitely go with Google Slides as your means to build these. And if you need help with building these activities, or you want to use a different platform, so if you're using Seesaw and you want to do choice boards within there, let me know, and I will be more than happy to help you with that. But I definitely using these student choice boards is a great way to keep all of your students engaged and really tailor their learning to their personal strengths. All right, enjoy.